In a moment, this woman is going to explain to you a terrible female behavior that I think deserves to be shamed. Before we get to her, I first want to explain why I believe that shame is not an inherently bad emotion. Sometimes, shame is the appropriate emotion to be felt. If you behave badly, you should feel ashamed. If you lie, cheat, steal, then you should feel ashamed of yourself. And other people around you should shame you as well. As a society, we are extremely aware of negative male actions, and we shame them. But what about the predominantly female behaviors that are also really terrible and deserve to be shamed and condemned? Sometimes these female behaviors are extremely common, and we need to shame them so that we can reduce their frequency. One of these behaviors is leading men on. Making a man believe that they have a chance with a woman sexually or romantically, when really he's just being exploited for his time, energy, resources, attention. Listen to this woman explain how this works.
I've seen a lot of guys that play the friendship role and like continue to do like favors even though they're not really going to get a chance with the girl, and she just sort of keeps him around just to have him there, just to have like another option available, and like just for the increased sort of flirtation or like, yeah, just like, you know, you get good things out of it. It's a good benefit.
I really enjoyed talking to this woman. She was friendly, down to earth. She can talk openly about how some women do lead men on and why it's immoral. Listen to this next part because she's going to talk about what happened to a male friend of hers.
He realised that she had led him on for a really long time, and that wasn't something that a good person would do. Like after like a year and a half, like it was a long time. That like he realised that she really was only keeping him around just as like someone that gave her compliments and was someone that she could go to when she wanted him and when she needed him, but like not like that she always went to him or like when he needed her.
I won't show the whole clip, but from here she goes on to explain how she helped her friend, explaining to him how toxic this woman was, how he can do better, and how to improve his life. One of the reasons I liked talking to this woman was that she wasn't caught up in identity politics. Her initial loyalty wasn't just to women because she's a woman. She could recognize that there was bad behavior going on, and that's what she focused on. She supported her male friend and socially shamed the woman. And we need to lead from her example. We need to socially shame women in society so that we can discourage immoral behavior. Jesus Christ said, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." But I've always rejected that and lived by Ayn Rand's words. Judge and prepare to be judged. As a society, we seem to have been caught up in this wave of non-judgment, as if being non-judgmental is this amazing virtue that we should all aspire to. If you meet a murderer, somebody who has committed terrible, evil acts, and you talk to him as if nothing's wrong, like he's an old friend, well, what is your justification? Like if I point out to you the terrible, terrible things that he's done in the past, are you going to say, "Oh, well, I don't like to be judgmental"? You're not being virtuous. You're being a moral coward. You are failing in your ethical duty to point out to that person that their past behavior is wrong, and any interaction you have with them should make it clear that you condemn their past actions. Now, when you combine society's fixation with being non-judgmental with the frankly sexist belief that women are these perfect angels that can do no wrong, well, that's when you end up with what we have now. This horrible situation where women are engaging in terrible behavior, really morally contemptible stuff, free from judgment, free from shame. Of course, because when there's no consequence, there's no shame, there's no social stigma, well then of course you're going to see more and more of it. Let's stick with the example from the girl that I interviewed. You've got a woman who is leading a man on. She knows that he wants a relationship, she knows that he wants sex, and she leads him to believe that he has a chance at one of those two things, but really he doesn't. The only reason that she's interested in maintaining the relationship is because she's enjoying the resources that he provides. She's liking the attention. This is terrible, terrible behavior, and we need to shame women who do it. If we don't, then we can't be surprised when it happens more and more often. I don't think that it's an absolute, but there's definitely some truth to that saying that says that people are only going to be as moral as their consequences for being immoral. Now, I want you to pay attention to this next part because this is extremely important. I am not a misogynist. I have no special dislike for women. I am completely aware that men can be terrible, terrible people too. I don't think that either gender is more immoral than another gender. I think that there are bad people in both genders. The only reason why you don't hear me go on and on about terrible male behavior is because that's just not the focus of this channel. This channel is about educating men, about women, about psychology, about themselves, so that they can be better informed and hopefully lead happy, productive lives with successful relationships. Now, as somebody who isn't misogynistic, I consider it extremely important that I call out bad female behavior. I was listening to a Sam Harris podcast and I thought that his explanation for the reasoning for this was perfect. He talked about how nobody on the left side of politics wants to talk about immigration. If you talk about immigration reform, then you run the danger of being called a racist, and so nobody wants to talk about it. But if you follow along that line, then eventually the only people who are going to be talking about immigration are genuine racists. Why are they still talking about it? Well, because they don't mind being called racists. They own it. But immigration is an important topic, and regular, rational, moderate people need to engage upon this issue. Otherwise, the conversation is only going to be dominated by racists. The same thing, the exact same thing is going to happen with regards to negative female behavior. Just because somebody is able to notice unethical behavior by a woman and shame her for acting that way doesn't make him a misogynist. Women do terrible stuff sometimes, just like men. If you call everybody a sexist just because they talk about the dark side of female psychology, what you do is you dissuade people from even having that conversation. Nobody wants to talk about the negative side of women because they don't want to be called a misogynist. And you know what's going to happen if you continue along that path. Eventually, only genuine misogynists are going to be having that conversation. Then you've lost the opportunity for a calm, moderate, rational discussion of this very important issue. Now the conversation is going to be irrational and emotional and genuinely sexist. As you look through the internet, you can see this happening already. You stumble across some blog, website, YouTube channel, and there are people there trying to have a genuine conversation, but mixed in amongst it are people with an obvious blind, irrational, emotional hatred of women. People who hate women regardless of individual circumstances, individual context. But I think that this conversation is too important to leave it to the misogynist to have. It is vital that we speak about negative female behavior. It's vital that we understand the dark side of female psychology. So if you're like me and you consider yourself to be a calm, rational, moderate person, then you need to be one of the people speaking out about these issues. You need to shame women when they're acting unethically. The reason that it has to be you is precisely because you don't hate women. It's a matter of praising positive behavior and shaming negative behavior. It's voices like yours that are going to prove that we are capable as a society of having a nuanced discussion of this topic. That we're capable of criticizing women without it descending into mindless, blatant sexism. Now, if enough moderate people shame women for those unethical female behaviors, things like leading a man on, well then hopefully all of that shame, all of that social stigma will reduce the likelihood of women acting that way.